안녕하세요.
Kang Ji-hoon was a name respected throughout South Korea. As the CEO of Kang Group, a technology empire, he was known for his cold demeanor in business and his inability to show emotions. Raised to be a ruthless leader, he never allowed anything to divert him from his path. At least, not until he met Lee Mi-ra. Lee Mi-ra was a hardworking woman. Coming from a humble family, she had fought hard to secure a job at Kang Group. Working as a maintenance staff member in the company's headquarters, her routine was simple repairs, adjustments, and avoiding trouble. However, her life would change drastically on what seemed like just another ordinary workday. That morning, Ji-hoon walked through the company halls, speaking impatiently on the phone with shareholders. His tone was authoritative, exuding control. Meanwhile, Mi-ra was focused on fixing a leak in the ceiling pipes. Just as she stood up to test the water pressure, the pipe burst, spraying water directly onto the CEO as he passed by at that exact moment. A stunned silence fell over the corridor. Mi-ra's eyes widened in horror as she realized what had just happened. Ji-hoon stood frozen, completely drenched, his expensive designer suit ruined. Employees stopped in their tracks, anticipating an outburst of rage. "What? What have you done?" Ji-hoon murmured, his voice controlled but dangerous. Panicked, Mi-ra grabbed the nearest cloth and rushed toward him, desperately trying to dry him off. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were... Oh my God!" she stammered, rubbing the cloth over his face, unintentionally making the situation worse. Ji-hoon caught her wrist firmly, stopping the disaster in its tracks. "Stop." His voice was cold, but for a brief moment, something flickered in his eyes, something different. Mi-ra swallowed hard, finally realizing exactly who stood before her. He wasn't just any boss. He was the man who ran the entire company. "Mr. Kang, please forgive me." She bowed her head, fully expecting to be fired on the spot. To everyone's surprise, Ji-hoon simply released her wrist and sighed, glancing down at himself. "You're lucky I have an urgent meeting right now. But this isn't over." He turned and walked away, leaving Mi-ra standing there, heart racing, utterly confused about what had just happened. In the days that followed, Ji-hoon found himself thinking about the incident more often than he cared to admit. There was something about her, something in her determined eyes, in the way she had faced him without meaning to. And when fate decided to intervene once more, their paths would cross again, in an even more unexpected way. Later that week, Kang Group hosted a corporate gala to celebrate a major international deal. Mi-ra, despite being a maintenance worker, was assigned to oversee the venue's infrastructure and ensure everything ran smoothly. She wore her usual uniform, her hair neatly tied back, her expression one of quiet focus. Ji-hoon arrived at the event, surrounded by directors and investors, his presence as commanding as ever. However, the moment he spotted Mi-ra across the hall, his expression faltered for a split second. He couldn't explain why his gaze kept returning to her, but there was something about her that intrigued him. As he moved through the room, Ji-hoon overheard two executives mocking Mi-ra's presence. "I bet that girl got herself into trouble again. Does she really think she belongs here?" One of them sneered with a chuckle. An unfamiliar irritation stirred within Ji-hoon. He rarely involved himself in trivial matters, but the thought of someone belittling Mi-ra irked him in an unusual way. Without giving it much thought, he walked over to her. "Lee Mi-ra." His firm voice cut through the chatter, drawing all eyes toward them. Mi-ra looked up, startled and hesitant. "Yes, Mr. Kang?" Ji-hoon paused for a moment, then picked up a glass of wine from a nearby table and handed it to her. "Since you are here, enjoy the party." With a rare, subtle smirk, he turned and walked away, leaving Mi-ra speechless and the executives utterly bewildered. At that moment, something shifted, and not even Ji-hoon could explain exactly what it was. The following days at Kang Group were filled with an unusual tension. Rumors about the unexpected interaction between the CEO and the maintenance worker spread through the company halls like wildfire. Some whispered that Mi-ra had been reprimanded and would soon be fired. Others speculated that she had somehow captured Ji-hoon's special attention. Either way, no one knew for sure what was happening. For Mi-ra, those rumors were the least of her worries. She found herself replaying the scene from the event over and over. Ji Hoon's gaze, the way he had called her by name, and the subtle smile he had given her, what did it all mean? Was he toying with her? Or was there some hidden meaning behind his actions? That morning, Mira was organizing tools in the maintenance storage room when she received an unexpected message. Lee Mira, CEO Kang wants to see you on the executive floor. One of the supervisors informed her, his expression filled with surprise. Ra's heart pounded. What did he want with her? Was it about the water incident? Or worse yet, he changed his mind and decided to fire her after all? Taking a deep breath, she made her way to the elevator. Upon reaching the executive floor, she was escorted to the main office. The large dark wood doors opened, revealing Ji Hoon seated behind his imposing desk, reviewing some documents. The office was impeccably organized, with a bookshelf filled with awards and business literature. A massive glass window overlooked the city below. As she stepped inside, he lifted his gaze cold as ever, yet with a flicker of curiosity in his eyes. "Mr. Kang, you called for me?" Her voice came out steadier than she expected. He gestured for her to step closer and motioned to the chair in front of him. "Yes, starting today, you'll be working directly on the executive floor." Ji Hoon's tone was blunt, leaving no room for argument. Mira blinked, stunned. "What? But why?" Her confusion was evident. Ji Hoon intertwined his fingers and studied her calmly. "I need someone reliable to oversee the maintenance and services on this floor. Your competence caught my attention." She narrowed her eyes. This seemed too good to be true. "If this is because of the event, I don't want to be a problem, Mr. Kang." Her voice carried quiet sincerity. Ji Hoon's brow furrowed slightly, as if displeased by her implication. "What happened at the event has nothing to do with this. Just accept the position, Lee Mira." His voice was firm, leaving no room for refusal. Mira hesitated for a moment, but then took a deep breath. This was a big opportunity, even if the reasoning behind it remained a mystery. "Yes, sir, I accept." Ji Hoon nodded, satisfied. "Start immediately." With that, he turned his attention back to the documents on his desk. As Mira left the office, she felt a nervous flutter in her stomach. Her new position would place her close to the most powerful man in the company, and something told her this was only the beginning of a much bigger story. When she returned to the maintenance area to collect her things, she was met with curious stares and hushed whispers. One of her co-workers, Hai-jin, approached her with a mischievous smile. "What was that, Mira? The big boss called you to the executive floor?" Hai-jin asked, crossing her arms. Mira sighed, trying to conceal how nervous she truly was. "Yes, he assigned me to work there from now on." "Hi." Jin's eyes widened. "You have to be kidding me. I've never seen that happen before." She glanced around, realizing others were also eavesdropping. Mira grabbed her bag and looked at her friend with a tired smile. "Neither have I, but I guess I'll find out why soon enough." As she stepped into the elevator to begin her new job, a mixture of anxiety and anticipation swirled inside her. What awaited her upstairs? She was about to step into a world she had never imagined being part of, and her life was about to change forever. Working on the executive floor was an entirely different experience for Mira. The hallways were pristine, the offices sleek and silent, and the atmosphere carried an air of sophistication that made her feel out of place. But she was a professional, determined to prove that she deserved this position, regardless of Ji Hoon's true reasons for promoting her. In the first few days, she remained fully focused on her work. She supervised the cleaning staff, ensured everything ran smoothly, and avoided crossing paths with Ji Hoon more than necessary. But he seemed determined to make that impossible. One afternoon, while organizing a supply cabinet, she heard the firm sound of approaching footsteps. When she turned around, Ji Hoon stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching her. "How are things going?" he asked, his voice as firm as ever. Mira blinked a few times before answering. "Everything is under control, Mr. Kang. No issues so far." He tilted his head slightly, as if assessing her. "Good, but I want you to do more than just supervise. I want your opinion on improvements for the executive floor. You're here for a reason, Lee Mira." She swallowed hard. "Yes, sir." The response was automatic, but she couldn't shake the feeling that his words held a deeper meaning. The way he looked at her was perplexing. There was something therein interest beyond professional concern, but Mira couldn't afford to interpret it as anything romantic. After all, Ji-hoon was one of the wealthiest men in Korea. He would never look at her in that way. Would he? The days passed with more small, fleeting moments like this. Glances exchanged in the hallway, unexpected encounters at the company cafe, conversations that lasted slightly longer than necessary. Ji-hoon seemed to be pulling her closer, even if subtly, and Mira, despite trying to maintain her distance, felt herself getting drawn into his orbit. Things became even more complicated when she overheard the first rumors. "I heard the CEO has a special interest in the new employee on the executive floor," one of the secretaries whispered to another as Mira passed by. Her face burned with embarrassment. This was exactly what she wanted to avoid becoming the target of gossip. If there were even a hint of rumors connecting her to Ji-hoon, the consequences could be disastrous. That night, as she left the company, she noticed a luxury car parked by the curb. The tinted windows slowly rolled down, revealing Ji-hoon sitting in the back seat. "Get in. I'll take you home," he said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Mira glanced around, aware of the curious stares from some female employees nearby. "This isn't a good idea, Mr. Kang. I insist." His tone was authoritative, but there was something different in his eyes, something that made her hesitate. She knew that accepting this ride meant stepping further into his world. But at that moment, a part of her wanted to know that world, even if it was dangerous. Taking a deep breath, she opened the door and slid inside. And just like that, the distance between their worlds began to shrink. The car glided smoothly through the illuminated streets of Seoul, the silence stretching between Ji-hoon and Mira. She kept her hands clasped in her lap, feeling out of place against the soft leather seat. His sophisticated cologne filled the air, making the moment feel even more surreal. What was she doing here? No need to be so tense. Ji-hoon finally broke the silence, watching her with a subtle smile. "I don't usually offer rides to employees, if that's what's worrying you." Mira let out a nervous laugh. "It does worry me. I don't want to be the subject of office gossip." He nodded slowly, as if he understood her concerns. "Unfortunately, I can't stop people from talking, but I can make sure that none of those rumors harm you." She turned her gaze to the window, watching the city lights flicker like artificial stars. She didn't know what to think about that. Why was he being so kind? The cold, calculating CEO that everyone feared seemed different when they were alone. When the car pulled up in front of her small apartment, she quickly thanked him and stepped out, trying to ignore the weight of his gaze following her. But before she could walk away, Ji-hoon lowered the window and called her name. "Mira." She turned around, surprised by the way her name sounded on his lips. "Yes, sir?" "Hoon," he corrected. "At least when we're outside the office." She hesitated but nodded. "All right, Ji-hoon. Good night." His smile was one of satisfaction before the car drove away, leaving her there, her heart pounding in her chest. The next morning, chaos erupted. As soon as Mira stepped into the company, she felt the weight of countless eyes on her. The whispers were inescapable, and some employees didn't even bother to hide their judgmental stares. Her heart sank as she realized the rumors had already spread. When she reached the executive floor, she spotted Ji-hoon talking to an elegantly dressed woman. Her posture was poised, her face flawless and familiar. It wasn't until she turned that Mira recognized her. Kang Soo-jin, the socialite heiress of a corporate empire. And if the rumors were true, Ji-hoon's fiancé. Mira held her breath as she watched Soo-jin loop her arm through Ji-hoon's, whispering something in his ear. He remained expressionless, but when his eyes met Mira's, she caught a flicker of discomfort. She quickly looked away and rushed to her workstation. What had she expected? That Ji-hoon was different from the man the world claimed he was? That he might actually be interested in her in a way that wasn't just a passing distraction? Mira. His deep voice made her turn sharply. Ji-hoon stood just a few steps away. Soo-jin was no longer beside him. "Yes, sir?" He sighed, clearly irritated by her formality. "Can we talk?" She hesitated. Speaking with him would only fuel the rumors. But she also knew that if she wanted to keep her job, she couldn't simply ignore the company's CEO. Of course. He motioned toward a nearby meeting room, and Mira stepped in first. The moment the door closed behind them, Ji-hoon turned to face her. "Don't believe anything they're saying." Mira crossed her arms, raising an eyebrow. "And what exactly are they saying?" He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "That Sujin and I are engaged, that you're just a temporary distraction, that I promoted you because of some personal interest." Mira fought the urge to look away. "And is any of that true?" He held her gaze for a long moment before answering, his voice softer than she expected. "None of it." She wanted to believe him, but could she? Or would it be safer to keep her distance? The wind blew gently over the hills surrounding the luxurious Kang family estate. The sun was setting on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. In the garden, an elegant setup had been arranged, with lanterns glowing softly and a long white carpet stretching to the altar. Every detail had been carefully planned for the moment that would change their lives forever. Mira could still hardly believe what was about to happen. Dressed in a modern hanbok in soft tones, adorned with golden embroidery that shimmered under the light, she took a deep breath, feeling her heart racing. Who would have imagined that she, a simple employee, would end up marrying one of the most powerful men in the country? The whispers of the guests didn't bother her. Her attention was only on him. On the other side, Ji-hoon waited at the altar. The once untouchable and cold CEO now looked at Mira with an expression filled with love and admiration. He had fought against everything and everyone to make this moment possible, against his family, against the shareholders, against the press that thrived on scandals. But none of it mattered now. He had made his choice, and it was her. His heart pounded, but for the first time, it was for a reason that brought him peace. The pianist began to play a soft melody, and Mira started walking down the aisle. Each step felt like a dream. Cherry blossom petals floated gently around her, as if nature itself was blessing them. Ji-hoon extended his hand when she reached him, and the moment she touched him, everything made sense. It was as if all the pain, all the challenges, had been mere stepping stones leading her to this very instant. "I never imagined we'd be here," she whispered, her eyes shining. Ji-hoon gently squeezed her hand. "I did, from the moment you walked into my life." The officiant smiled and began the ceremony. The words blurred in Mira's mind. All that mattered was Ji-hoon, looking at her as if she were the center of his universe. "Kang Ji-hoon, do you take Park Mira as your wife?" He didn't hesitate. "I do." Her heart pounded even faster as the officiant turned to her. "Park Mira, do you take Kang Ji-hoon as your husband?" A single tear rolled down her cheek as she smiled. "I do." The long-awaited moment arrived. Ji-hoon gently cupped her face and kissed her, sealing not just a marriage but a love story that had withstood everything. The guests erupted into applause, and fireworks lit up the night sky. Mira found herself surrounded by warm embraces, but Ji-hoon's touch was all that mattered. In that moment, nothing could separate them. Months later, Ji-hoon and Mira sat together in the garden of their new home, watching the moonlight. He wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her close. Married life brought them a new kind of happiness, a love that was mature and peaceful, yet still filled with passion. "Do you think our baby will inherit your smile or mine?" he asked playfully, running a gentle hand over her growing belly. She laughed, resting her head on his shoulder. "I just hope they inherit your heart." He smiled, pressing a soft kiss to the top of her head. "I once promised I'd create my own world. Now, you are my whole world, Mira. You and our family." And so, between laughter, promises, and shared dreams, they finally found their happily ever after. No matter what the future held, they knew they could face anything long as they were together.